Welcome to Android Authority on Air, the original Android Hangout show on Google+. I'm Derek Ross.
I'm Scott Anderson.
I'm Dan Charlton.
And I'm Jonathan Franklin.
And this week, we're going to talk about the Samsung Galaxy S4 that just launched, or was announced a little bit ago. And we're going to talk about some Android ecosystem news, some shake-ups in the Android ecosystem. And then we'll talk about some comparisons on the Galaxy S4 versus the Galaxy S3, the Note 2, the HTC One, and the old faithful, the Nexus 4. So let's get started, Scott. Let's hit up some Android ecosystem news before we SGS4 all the things.
Okay, so Andy Rubin, the leader of Android.
The Godfather, right?
Yeah, you can call him that. Yeah, that's a better name. He is moving on, and he's moving to a new chapter at Google. Basically, he states that he's an entrepreneur at heart, and he's possibly moving to Google X, some new things, developing some new things. Yeah, and the new leader is going to be Sundar, I don't know his last name.
Pichai.
Pichai?
Pichai.
Everybody knows.
Sundar Pichai.
He's Indian, so...
So he was the overseer of Chrome and Chrome apps, and now he's going to be leading Android as well, which is pretty exciting, and I'm very interested to see where he takes both platforms. What do you guys think is going to happen here? Is this a good move by Google, or...?
Well,
no?
I think that if Andy Rubin is moving on to the next chapter, and that next chapter is, in fact, the Google X project, which we know little about besides Glass and self-driving cars, I think that's awesome, and that says a lot. Because if you look at what Andy Rubin has done, he started out as an entrepreneur, which he said himself, with Android. He fostered Android from nothing into this awesome global dominating force. He's a force to be reckoned with when it comes to launching a product, a successful product. And Google is putting him on something that we don't know what it is, but they want it to be as successful and have a major impact on us, a major impact on society. So I think that this is a good move. And besides, Google X is rumored to be all about, wearable computing and making life easier. Well, somebody that was completely successful in mobile technology seems like the perfect guy for that solution. I'm excited to see what comes out of Google X as a Google fan, and then as an Android enthusiast, I'm curious as to what the future holds for Android. Especially, people for a while now have been talking about mergers of Android and Chrome, and are they merging? Are they getting married? Are they going to play nicely? No one really knows what's going to happen. But then we have this elephant in the room. We have this Chromebook Pixel where Chrome OS really isn't optimized for touch, and then its tagline is "for what's next." We don't know what next is, but what we do know is we know that there's a Chrome Android statue coming out of a window, and we could read into things here and say, where is that Chrome statue coming out of a window, aka a tab? So we're gonna be able to launch Chrome apps in a tab. That's wrong. Are we gonna be able to launch Android apps in a Chrome tab? I don't know. I think that would be cool. And that
certainly boost the market for larger sized Android apps.
Yeah. So my advice to developers is, if you have a Android app that is not looking gorgeous on the Nexus 10 right now, you might want to step it up a little bit, just in case I'm not crazy and Pixel gets Android app support. And you know what? If I am crazy and that doesn't happen, the worst thing that can happen is that you have a gorgeous app on the Nexus 10.
It's really a win-win scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
You've been crazy before, so I don't know.
So Dan, John, you think this is a good move for Android as a whole? What's Sundar gonna do? He's managing Chrome and now Android. I mean, two major facing products for Google.
It's a really good move, I think, because well, Andy Rubin is always he was with Danger before he was with Android. He's always gone for the moonshot kind of development. So he's probably burnt out a little bit. He's probably a little bit bored with it because Android's pretty well established at this point. But
It makes sense.
Android to me is bigger. The bigger thing that Android needs to accomplish now is the Google side of Android more than the actual framework of Android. And Sundar has been over Chrome, but he's also been over Gmail, web apps, Calendar, and Google Drive. And it's going to be interesting to see Chrome and Android under one roof and kind of have one general direction as to how they're taking the usability of both operating systems and taking it into account for kind of a unified user experience to anybody that uses either one of them. So I think you can really bring something new to the table because Android's always kind of been that division of Google that's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I definitely think it's good for the Android community. I mean, Andy Rubin is sort of the inventor of more or less Android and the guy behind it all. But really, it's a lot of other people that are doing the meat and bones of what is Android on a day-to-day basis. We're just talking about the person who's managing it, right? Like Matthias Duarte is still handling UI design, and all of the other big-name people are in all of the other big-name positions throughout it. It's just the director of the division is changing. And I think that Sundar's got the experience of managing a sort of big corporate, ongoing, established division like Chrome that will be good for Android to have that kind of sort of credibility to it. And I definitely think it'll be interesting to see what Andy Rubin does because he's definitely a good entrepreneur.
All right,
Yeah,
so what else we got on the Android ecosystem front?
Well, ad blocking apps, if you guys are familiar with those, install an app, build your host file, rebuild it, add some host files there. Basically, ad blocking apps have been pulled from the Play Store. Basically, this, in a nutshell, they were violating the terms of service according to Google, and this in turn hurt developers because if you could get a ad blocker, then you would no longer see ads. You also, it would hurt Google because what Google's revenue is, developers' revenue is, and it kind of hurts everybody on the platform. So basically, this will make developers a little bit more happy and will honestly be able to give developers money for their actual work. And how do you guys feel about this? Are ads our choice or?
I think it's good because developers do need to get paid for their work. A developer that puts out a free app and then puts ads in there, to make money, that's how they get paid for their work. It's a free app. Now, a lot of developers will have an app that it might cost $2, $3, or whatever with no ads. That's fine too. So when it only costs a couple dollars, we really need to learn to not be cheap and to just give the developer money for their hard-earned work. Now, what's interesting about this, my take is that ad blocker only worked for rooted users. So I really don't think this is going to change a lot of things because if you're already a rooted user, you're okay with doing things a little outside the norm. So you're just going to install the app you're going to sideload the app. You're going to install it from a third-party location. You're not going to download it from the Play Store. That's fine. You're just going to go into XDA Developers or RootsWiki or wherever the app is posted, and you're going to download it and install it there. So I'm not saying to go ahead and do that. I'm just saying that while this might be a step in the right direction to make money for developers and for Google, I just don't think it's really going to do a whole lot. It's just going to make it harder.
Yeah, I agree. And, I mean, it's not that obtrusive to have ads. I mean, it's one thing for the applications that are spamming you with ads, but those are getting fewer and further between as long as you aren't downloading every Hello Kitty app that you can find.
I love those.
Right, like, don't just start downloading every random crappy app.
Or let your kids do it. Like, my son has laden his tablet / my old tablet with every single talking animal app there is. And when you hit the notification window, there's like 50 ads showing on there. So Yeah, so you gotta be careful with that.
Another thing worth mentioning is a lot of developers internationally don't have an option to actually make a paid app, so ads are their only form of revenue.
Yep.
That's a good point.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah. No. Only certain places that don't allow you to sell apps. You can't be a developer who makes money through Google Play there. Period. Right? Like, they aren't allowed to do transactions there. That's the problem.
Okay. All right.
And then another big one is Google announced that Google Reader is doing a little bit more cleaning and is taking away Google Reader on July 1st, which I use daily. I don't know about you guys. Are you guys constant users? Dan, not so much. John, yes, you are. Derek, you are.
I'm on the laptop or desktop. I have Reader open right now. I have Reader open every day that I'm on a laptop, desktop, all day long. On my tablet and on my phone, I use Currents because it looks nice, and I've been able to, manage. I kind of forced myself to using it at first. I really didn't like it at first, but I kind of forced myself to it, and now I like it. And now I use it all the time. But I liked Reader because it was easy to share content, and I'm a guy that pushes out a lot of content and shares a lot of crap. So I'll miss Reader, but I'm curious what comes next, because Google can't kill a service that is that popular without giving us an alternative. So this gets back into what we were talking about earlier. I think Currents, in one way, shape, or another, is going to come to Chrome. If that's going to be a web app or if that's going to be a Android app, I think that Google will have an answer for us before Reader expires. Fingers crossed, confidence high.
It's called Google Plus.
Is notably after Google I/O.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, good point. I didn't notice that.
So game-changing stuff happens at I/O. Everybody's calmed down. Everybody realizes the world isn't ending because something cool and awesome is happening. And then they're going to be like, hey, it sucks that Reader's not here, but look at these new bells and whistles on this app.
Ooh, shiny.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what we're going to do.
You killed this app. Shiny. Who cares?
Last time during I/O, we had 30 app updates during the keynote.
Yeah.
And so
look at somebody's
misdirection.
skydiving, and while we're doing that, spam with updates.
So let's talk about the thing that everybody wants to know about. About 3 hours ago, Samsung took over New York City, specifically Times Square, specifically Radio City, and let the world know what the next Galaxy is. And Dan, being our resident hardware guy and most critical Android Authority member that I know,
Or person,
do you think it's as awesome as the hype portrayed it to be?
No.
All right, so tell us all about the hardware.
Well, it's not unimpressive. They have a 4.99-inch 1080p, what do they call it? Some new type of AMOLED screen that's sort of super AMOLED, but special, using phosphorescent something. FAMOLED or some such.
Yeah, FAMOLED.
Yeah. Yeah, some new Samsung. Basically, they finally got AMOLED to work on 1080, and they call it some new name because they call it some new name every year. So why not do it again? What else? That is at 441 ppi, so that is pretty pixel dense. Not quite as much as the smaller HTC One, but still very, very dense and a lot denser than anything.
441 pixels is nothing to be upset about.
No, that is well beyond what you can distinguish with your eyes. Well beyond.
So it's like Retina times 2.
Oh my God! Stop using that word.
Yes. Retina, according to Apple, for a phone is roughly 300 to 350 ppi. So well beyond Retina quality. The processor is going to depend on where you live. If you live in a non-LTE market, then you will get Samsung's Exynos 4 or 5 Octa, the much talked about dual quad-core processor with 4 Cortex A15 CPUs at 1.6 gigahertz, and then 4 more Cortex A7 at only 1.2 gigahertz for the lower sort of less intensive tasks. So it's definitely going to be exciting to see the benchmarks on that. The more impressive piece, though, is at least in my opinion, is the GPU that's paired with it. They're using the PowerVR SGX 544 MP3 GPU. So this is the exact same GPU that's in the iPad 4, with one exception. The one in the iPad 4 has 4 cores. This one's only 3. So it's not going to be as powerful, but it's also clocked way up to 533 megahertz. So it should be a very, very capable device in the graphics department. For LTE markets, notably the US, rumored also for the UK, you're getting a Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 that's the same CPU that's in the HTC One and the LG Optimus Pro, although this one is clocked at 1.9 gigahertz, so it's a little faster than the one.
Now, what graphics GPU is with that?
So that's still the same Adreno 320 that's in the other ones with the same chipset, but it's also the same one that's in with the S4 Pro. So the same that's with the Nexus 4, the Droid DNA. I mean, it's definitely a capable GPU, but it's not as capable as the PowerVR that's in the...
So if you live in the US, should we feel gypped that we're not getting as a powerful GPU?
No, I wouldn't, because, I mean, Qualcomm has also shown off that GPU running 4 simultaneous videos, one on each processing core. I mean, it can handle pushing multiple HD videos at the same time. It's definitely capable. It's not as fast and as capable and as powerful as the PowerVR, but it's certainly adequate.
Okay, all right. That makes me feel a little bit better living on this side of the pond, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and it's the same as really all of the other top-of-the-line phones that you're getting in America right now, because everything else is shipping with the Snapdragon 600.
But this is going to be a 1.9 gigahertz, so it is going to be a little bit faster.
So, yeah, you get a little bit of a bump there. In either version, you're getting 2 gigabytes of RAM, and it's going to come with 16, 32, or 64 gigabytes of internal storage.
So that's nuts right there. So you could have a 64 gig internal storage, and you can get a 64 gig SD card because the S4 supports that. So you can have a server in your pocket if you want.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, so if you need massive amounts of locally stored video
on your cell phone,
on your cell phone, then you can do that with the S4.
Definitely. In the camera department, Samsung clearly does not agree with HTC and does think that pixels are everything. So we have a 13 megapixel rear shooter and a 2 megapixel front shooter. We got a 9.88 watt hour battery, which is 2,600 milliamp hours.
Now, back to the camera, Dan. I think that it's noteworthy to mention that not a whole lot of phones have a 2 megapixel front-facing camera.
That's true. It's definitely not the first one.
Right?
Most of them are just VGA cameras, or 1.3.
Yeah.
Most are either VGA, which I think is 0.6, or they're 1.3 megapixels. So this is definitely a high-quality front-facing camera as well. Although I think that the S3 might have had a 2 megapixel front-facing. I know that the HTC Amaze did.
I think the DNA has isn't it a 2 plus that thing that shows off a wider angle too?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not, record breaking or anything, but it's
the S3 had a 1.9, so they gave it a point more pixel.
Or they just made a marketing decision.
Or they just rounded.
They rounded. Well, you know what? They did round up for the screen during the presentation. They said it had a 5-inch screen. It's not 5 inches. It's 4.99.
Stop lying. Stop trying to use meters.
We knew you were we knew you were lying. You're trying to fib us. Don't do that.
Yeah, in the connectivity department, we've got all the usual suspects: Wi-Fi, AV, GN, Wi-Fi Direct, dual band Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth, GLONASS.
So it doesn't have Bluetooth 5 like those leaks said, huh?
No, it does not. It does not have the non-existent Bluetooth standard.
That's good. That's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah, once we saw that leak that had 5.0 Bluetooth, we're like, nah, that doesn't even exist. That's not good.
It's coming.
In the cellular connectivity department, it's going to differ based on whether or not you've got Qualcomm in your pocket. If you do, then you're going to get LTE on as many as 6 bands at once, plus HSPA plus up to 42, actually possibly 84. But there aren't any networks that have that, so it doesn't really matter. HSPA plus, GSM, CDMA. So I mean, it's going to be
everything.
They made a big deal to
really,
say
there's no
that
reason
the
for them to
F4
be
was
releasing
capable.
this international version other than that they want to release something with their very own processor in it, because the US version could run all the anywhere around the world.
Dan, during the presentation, they made a big deal saying that the S4 was able to do 100 megabit down and 50 megabit up with over LTE.
Not impressive.
Kind of saying that
that's called the definition of LTE.
Yeah, but I think they were doing that to say, look, if something awesome comes out in a year from now, you know what I mean? That look what we can do.
Yeah, something awesome that's coming out is actually coming out in a month or less. It's called LTE Advanced.
Exactly.
And that doesn't help because it doesn't support LTE Advanced. It supports Category 3 LTE, the theoretical max down of 100 megabits and up of 50. And that's the exact same as every other LTE device that's ever been on the market.
And that is why
it wouldn't be LTE.
And that's why they're going to sell the next iteration, because it's going to be something that will be, desirable.
All right, so what colors does this come in? Just your regular black and white, or something fancy smancy?
Black Mist and White Frost.
I love those color names.
Apparently, Samsung is taking after the car companies in color naming. Next, we're going to get Plum Crazy and Candy Apple Red.
I would buy a. Well, you know what? Not a Candy Apple Red, but I'd buy a Laser Red.
I'd go for the Sublime Green model myself.
Sublime, yeah. All right, so
Did
Samsung.
you mention?
What's that?
Did you mention the IR blaster?
No.
I did not mention the IR blaster. Yeah, that's a notable feature. It'll have an IR blaster, so you can actually use it as a TV remote. Although the HTC One also has that feature, which.
But it's cool for like audio systems.
That's just built into the radio that's in the 600.
So
and then, MHL.
So actually, I have a question about that. You said it's built into the radio that's in the Snapdragon 600?
It's not actually the radio, it's the radio front end, which is
all right, never mind.
built into the baseband that's paired with. Well, no, it is
All
integrated.
right. All right. So let's talk about software, because Samsung taught us a year ago that the age of the spec had passed, and that basically the last 20 minutes of the show doesn't matter.
I'm just here to waste my time.
Samsung taught us that software is king, and we need to sell features and sell. We sell products by selling features, because people don't care about specs, which the general population doesn't. They don't know what numbers are. They just want it to work. And how is it going to work? With things such as Smart Pause.
Everything has to have an S in the beginning.
Well, yeah, exactly. Except for floating touch. Maybe we can call it S Touch. All right, we'll call it S Touch. All right, so
there you go.
So Smart Pause is looking at a video, and then you look away from it, and it is smart enough to know, wait a second, they're not watching this anymore. We're gonna pause it, and then when they look back, we're gonna resume.
Okay, so immediately when I saw this feature and I heard about this feature being released, I was like, hey, I'm watching a music video or like some audio on YouTube, and if it's smart enough to, know when I'm looking away and I'm
so if you're headbanging, you're screwed.
Yeah, it's off on, off on.
So you're sitting, it's like off. It's like, oh, stop! Like you can't dance to this phone.
That would be kind of trippy.
Actually, you know what? That's what I want to see. I want to see somebody make a YouTube video trying to dance, and the video keep pausing. Well, maybe that's what group plays for. Somebody else is playing it, right? All right, so we'll get to that. So floating touch. That's pretty much how it sounds. You hover your finger over the screen, and it kind of almost acts like the Note 2 S Pen features, but with your finger.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's cool.
I'd like to try it out. You know, I would. I'd like to sit there and wee.
Hasn't Sony done that already, though?
Yeah.
I'm not aware. I don't know. So if you're watching right now and you're like, floating touch, Sony's done that before, let us know in the comments. Yeah, let us know in the comments. I'm not sure. Now, next feature, I was watching the presentation. I started laughing when I saw it because I was like, huh, every Android user can already do this. But you know what? Samsung has to brand everything, so they branded the S Translator, which the S Translator is their own version of Google Translate, where it does live translation when you're talking into it. It literally does the exact same thing.
Yes. So to S-translate, this would be unremovable bloatware that doesn't do anything you couldn't already do.
Yeah. So I understand this is. We'll get to this at the end here, but there's a trend here you're going to start to see. So S Voice came out with the S3. They continued to do it again this time.
Stupid.
S Voice, is supposedly getting bigger, better, stronger, badder, more bloaty.
Like Siri.
Always more bloaty.
The Jelly Bean S Voice, the Jelly Bean voice actions, voice search is awesome. I don't see the need for Samsung's own S Voice, except for the ability to read text messages to you. That's a nice feature. That's nice. But you really don't need S Voice when you can do almost everything with the built-in. Do you guys see a value for S Voice?
No, it's just unremovable bloat.
I can only see it in a market that doesn't have Google services.
Ah, there you go.
Okay. All right, so Joe Hindi wins the prize. What did you win? We'll talk after the show. I don't know. Thank you. So Joe said that the Xperia Sola devices had floating touch. So Dan was right. Dan's right a lot. We should.
Dan is almost always right.
All right. So the next thing is S Travel, which is kind of like car mode and Google Maps and navigation, Google Navigation. So once again, it's these features kind of already exist as a Google service. So you noticing a trend yet? All right. So maybe the next one will help you hit home. So S Hub, which a bunch of Samsung devices already had S Hub, but they made a key point in saying, look, you can go here to buy your movie, or go here and buy your content, your music, your magazines, and your books. Hey, look at this awesome magazine reader we have. So they're disaligning themselves away from Google Play apps, such as Play Movies, Play Music, Play Books, and Play Magazines, which they demoed during the presentation. So they're not aligning themselves with Google services. Still, now we're starting to see a trend here, right? Another Google service, HomeSync. Now, HomeSync is cool. HomeSync is when you take a picture on your phone and you have the Samsung Home server sitting in your house, and it syncs to your 1 terabyte of local storage at your house. But you can already do this. You can already take a picture with instant upload. It syncs it to Google server, so you don't have to worry about your home server dying or your internet going out at home and not being able to access it. So that's another way they're putting the kibosh on the Goog.
Goog.
Chat On's a cool service. It's exactly like Hangouts with one person.
Although more bloated.
So they're doing something that already exists again in Android. It's called Chat On. But and last but not least, service that's replicated that you really don't need is their version of Google Wallet, which is the first device to launch with Visa's new PayWave, their mobile payment system. Which really you can do this with Google Wallet. So before we get into a few other services that aren't already existing, it kind of seems like Samsung is really, really, really pushing their ecosystem hard, so that you don't need Google. You have Samsung here for all these services and all these apps. You don't need Google Play. You can use Samsung.
Yeah, I don't think just shoving the apps in people's faces is going to make them use them.
People that don't know any better.
Yeah.
They sell millions of these devices. Not everybody knows better.
That's very true.
The average person's going to see, click here to buy a book, or whatever the S-Hub book app's called, or a magazine, and they're going to use that.
Seriously, why has it come to OEMs appealing to the stupidest consumer on the planet?
That's what they do. They're bottom feeders.
That's where you get your money, but I mean, in some cases, in carrier bloatware, it hasn't worked though.
Yeah.
This is what I see from Samsung. They are appealing to the least common denominator. The person who can't figure out how to tie their shoes in the morning. Oh my God, how in God's name do I accomplish anything with this cell phone?
First of all, it's pretty difficult to tie your shoes in the morning if you ever tried it. I mean, I do have slip-ons.
I do it daily, successfully. And this is how they sell millions of devices. It's tragic.
I really wonder how much resources all these things take up.
All right, so let's talk about another service that actually doesn't exist. Let's talk about Group Play. Oh wait, you can get some of this stuff done. But all right, so Group Play is kind of neat. Group Play allows you to share music and docs and games without Wi-Fi. You don't need to be on a common network to sit there and share music to one another and play music to one another. During the presentation, everybody had four or five different Galaxy S4s, and the women were going to make surround sound, a 5-point surround sound system, and that's kind of cool, I guess.
With phones.
I didn't say how practical it was. I said it was cool. But I don't know. I guess it's cool that way. If you're wanting to share music when there's no Wi-Fi, you and your buddy can sit there and listen to music on their own individual phone.
Exactly what protocol are they using then?
I don't know. I would assume something with Wi-Fi Direct, but I obviously don't know.
That is Wi-Fi then. So basically what they're saying is, we don't make you have a Wi-Fi network. We're just going to create an ad hoc Wi-Fi network of our very own. You're still using Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with that.
Using that prevents you from using Wi-Fi.
There's one thing they didn't actually demonstrate. They didn't actually demonstrate S-Beam. They didn't even talk about S-Beam.
Because
S-Beam is stupid. It's just NFC and activated Wi-Fi Direct.
All right, so the camera features are interesting. Dual camera actually is probably one of the neater things that you got to hear about tonight. So dual camera is basically what it sounds like. Both cameras on the phone are active. So like right now, let's say my kids are doing something cool, and I go to take a picture of them, and then Daddy doesn't get to be in the picture, right? Well, with dual camera, I can take a picture of my kids doing something cute, and I can take a picture of me basically at the same time with the front-facing camera, and for lack of better words, Photoshop myself into the picture with them.
That's not how it works.
That's how it works.
Photoshop is not used.
No, Samsung Photoshops it for you.
S-Shop, okay?
Oh goodness, no.
Okay, let me explain it better since Scott didn't like my explanation. Okay, so you go to take a picture with the rear-facing camera or a video. It takes the video, it takes the camera shot, and then I say, it would look better if I was in the picture with said scene. I can then put my headshot in there going, so you get to include yourself in the videos and in the photos. You get to photobomb your own photos.
So you can take pictures of your friends and then include yourself because you're taking the picture in the... That's weird.
Yeah.
We're going to accuse it of being a Photoshop because your 2-megapixel picture looks a lot different.
So now you can be that creepy guy that goes to the mall and takes random pictures of people and then then dual cameras yourself into the background with all these people.
That is freaking weird.
But it's a neat feature.
One thing I liked was S-Health, kind of cool.
Yeah,
built-in
what's
pedometer.
that about?
It has a built-in pedometer, which is kind of cool. I don't know how accurate it's going to be, but pedometers are pretty expensive if you really want a nice one. So that being built into it is pretty cool. Gives you other stuff
wait,
Health
pedometer.
info.
You know where else you can get a pedometer? Google now.
Yeah, but dude, that is not accurate, and you know it.
Yeah, I haven't walked only 4 feet in the last 2 months.
Yeah, that is so.
Mine tells me miles, Dan. You better start walking.
That's true. I don't walk a whole lot.
Mine tells me negative. I don't understand that.
All right, so let's talk about Knox security for business users. Basically, it is going to allow you to. It enables Android SE for certain apps. So you can have a phone within a phone. You can have your business phone apps and your private phone apps, and they can be secured from one another. So if you want to run your business apps alongside your personal phone, so people that are at a place of business where the business motto is bring your own device, people that have to bring their own device to work can now make their IT department happy by not potentially bringing any type of bad stuff onto the network.
You know what those people could do? Stop buying applications from shady Chinese and Russian markets.
It's up to the consumers to make it right.
It is. Stop being an idiot.
I agree with you 100%.
Okay, so yes, people can stop being idiots, but isn't it a cool feature though that you could turn on Android SE if you want? You don't think it is?
No.
Well, I'm sure.
I'm not a network admin, so
I'm sure.
Security threats are things like this contact application has access to your contact list.
No way.
This calendar widget has access to your calendar.
No way. Yeah,
right,
but like
these are the things that people are saying are security threats. Well, of course this widget has access to my calendar. That's the freaking point.
Some people don't understand it though.
And then malware only is a problem when you're getting crap out of shady backdoor Chinese and Russian markets where they don't have the opportunity to purchase things legitimately through Google Play.
Oh no!
But I like the shady markets. It's like the black market of phones.
All right, so what other S features did we talk about everything? And they pretty much asked all the things.
They did.
I told you not to use that.
So there's S-Adapt Display, which S-Adapt Display basically means it's going to adapt based on the light needed to make the display look good. It's a marketing. I mean, it's a marketing term. These already do that. The brightness levels, auto brightness. It's not the exact same thing as auto brightness, but for lack of better words, it really does. It's a way that they do it. I missed a feature, and it is a feature. The screen is glove friendly. So if you live in an area that gets cold in the wintertime, like right now outside here in PA where it's 20-some degrees, if I walk outside with gloves on, the old Droid DNA doesn't allow me to use it if I'm wearing gloves. But if I had the S4, I could sit here with gloves on and touch the screen all I wanted to, apparently.
Does that mean it works underwater?
Compatible with the touch screens.
Does that mean it works better underwater?
Yes, Scott, it's scuba diver friendly.
No. I mean, like, shut up.
So
great marketing scheme.
We forgot another S, guys. We forgot S album. No, I'm just kidding. It's called Story Album.
Oh my god.
which reminds me of HTC Zoe. It's similar to that where you take a whole bunch of pictures one day and you get a notification in the notification bar saying, "Hey, look, on this date you took 10 pictures. Do you want to group them together in an album?" And you say yes, and then you can choose an album cover photo. So that's nice if you take a whole lot of pictures with your 13 megapixel camera.
Okay, all in all, overall impression, personally, bloatware to the max, and I like the hardware. I would wipe it and then say goodbye, just like I would with buying a brand new PC or something. If you buy something, loaded with bloatware from the store, wipe it, put your own stuff on there, say goodbye to the bloat. Are phones turning into this? Is root going to be the norm for everybody to do?
At least for the
tech
people.
All the tech people are gonna. It's gonna grow, but it's disappointing.
Yeah.
And all the people that don't know anything are going to love it.
Yeah, Joe Hindi asked. We talked about, we didn't talk about Eraser or Drama Shot, but we did talk about Home Sync.
We don't want no drama.
And Smart Switch. Smart Switch is cool if you're coming from an iPhone. If you're really coming from another Android phone, moving your contacts over in your pictures aren't really a big deal because your pictures should be synced to the cloud anyways. Your
No, they should be synced to Samsung.
Yeah, well, yeah, your
They have to have their
contacts
own
are
proprietary app just in case you didn't sign in with your Gmail account.
if you're moving over from an existing Android phone that you use Google services properly, it's not that big of a deal.
Yes,
but if you are on a phone that did not do that, or you are coming from an iPhone, they have Smart Switch, which is software you install on your computer to help you switch smartly to the new Galaxy.
Just like Kai's, which is awesome, right?
So, anybody have anything exciting to say about Drama Shot or Eraser?
We don't want no drama. That's what I gotta say.
It's a feature for the
gloat.
Yeah. I mean, they're cool. Don't get me wrong, but they're camera features.
They have cool names because there's an S in front of them, and the features, if they were fully baked and were a little bit more less gimmicky and actually worked to the way that you wanted it to, they'd be awesome. But right now, they're not really that.
Now, one thing about the camera that we should mention is it does come with Photosphere, but it's called 360 Photo.
God.
So, Samsung rebranded it. It's because it does come with the latest version of Android, 4.2.2, so it does have Photosphere capabilities. But Samsung, since they have a highly customized, camera app,
Yeah. And what I noticed with the camera, the Galaxy camera,
yes,
they integrated a lot of that stuff into the actual camera app, which I thought was really cool, and I thought that was good.
Well, it would have been pretty stupid of them not to.
I agree, but I'm happy that they actually did it and didn't wait for the next one. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some comparisons. We kind of did a little bit of comparisons. So right now, the latest phone from HTC, the One, people are going to be wondering which one they should get in the next month or two whenever they become available. Should they be getting the S4? Should they be getting the HTC One? Obviously, none of us here have touched any of them, held any of them, done actual device reviews right now as we're speaking. Wookie, if you're a fan of the show, you know who he is, Christopher Wook, as well as Joshua Vergara right now at the Samsung event, and they're doing various versus videos for you guys to let you know which one's better here and there. They're doing versus against existing phones such as the S3, the Note 2, the DNA, the Nexus 4, things like that, so you guys can see a comparison. But for phones that are yet to come out, like the HTC One, there is a big bit of a difference between the two. I mean, the display, you're talking about, they're both HD displays, but the Samsung One is a little bit bigger, 4.99 and 4.7. That's enough that you can notice. The HTC One is a little bit slower, 1.7 gigahertz. They basically have the same amount of storage space, 32 gig or 64 gig. Now the S4 you can get with 16 gigs, so you can get one smaller and cheaper. Same amount of RAM. Camera is a toss-up, obviously, because they use different things, different marketing terms. The ultra pixel, versus the 13 megapixel. I'm sure. I haven't seen any renders yet. Well, I'm sure the guys that are making the videos right now are taking pictures and doing tests and everything to see actually how the 13 megapixel camera pans out. The S4 has a little bigger battery than the Note. The Note has a 2300. I'm sorry, not the Note, the One.
Yeah.
The HTC One has a 2300 milliamp hour battery. So wireless charging, we don't know yet. Definitely the HTC One does not have it. The Galaxy S4 was rumored to come with a different case to add wireless charging. That hasn't been announced yet. I don't know if that is coming or not. We're going to have to wait a little bit on that. It's still, I guess, a little new. No, besides that, they're both fairly thin devices. The Galaxy S4 is a little bit thinner by little over a millimeter. They're basically about the exact same width and height, though, just a millimeter here and there. But it looks like it's a little thinner, and it's a little bit lighter, coming in at 130 grams, where the 1 is 143 grams. So it's a little bit lighter. Now,
that's because plastic is cheap. I mean, light.
Plastic is light, exactly. And HTC One is made out of metal. It's a high quality device. So let's without either of us in here holding a Galaxy S4, holding an HTC One, if you had to choose between the two, based on what we know hardware-wise, spec-wise, based on what we know software-wise, and what initial impressions have been from people that have actually held the devices.
Stock? Like no alterations?
How the device comes out of the box.
Okay.
Which one would you prefer? Which one do you want? Which one has you excited?
HTC.
HTC? Why?
It's a premium device that, I mean, from everything I've seen, it looks like it's going to be a very premium device. I've seen similarly constructed devices from HTC and held them, and they have been amongst the highest quality devices I've held. Far better than an iPhone, better than the Nexus 4, which is also a very premium feeling device. Whereas the Samsung is plastic, more cheap plastic from Samsung. Like, seriously, get off the plastic train. It's cheap. It just makes the device feel cheap, right? Like, it just doesn't even feel like it's in the same class. Even if all the specs are in the same class, it just doesn't feel like a premium device.
Now, John, you have a Note 2 right now. You're currently on the Samsung train. So if you had to get a new device, would you go with the Samsung train again, or would you jump over to the One?
I can't say that I would jump on the S4. And I look at the S4 now, and I'm not really jealous of it in any form or facet, because I bought my Note for a very specific purpose, in that I was kind of worried about the DNA as far as developer support, and I knew the Note 2 would get it, and Verizon just doesn't have many attractive options. The one thing I would say to the community is that after seeing all these specs and bloatware and all these progressions, and nothing about TouchWiz has really improved or changed, this is something the community has to address with Samsung. This is when Blur got out of hand, the community chastised Motorola, extremely. When LG got out of hand, when Samsung got out of hand in the past. So if you want this to change by the time that their next phone comes out, you need to be vocal about it, and you need to not reward Samsung for putting out this garbage.
Yeah,
that part of it is, and the hardware is good, but you can't, their software just isn't good.
Yeah.
And the community has to get active and tell Samsung, look, something's got to give.
Yeah, because if they keep selling millions and millions and millions of devices, they're going to say, hey, this is working, let's add more stuff, because that's what sells it. And
when somebody says, if I say I like my Note 2, that doesn't mean that I like every software feature that they pack into it. I like the device. That doesn't mean I love TouchWiz.
Yeah. And TouchWiz still looks like it did in Gingerbread. Like, it seriously has not changed.
Yeah. That is very true. It does look identical to what it looked like.
Yeah, there's nothing that's changed.
Just with more icons.
Yeah.
All right,
and
so
more vivid brightness ran down your eyes.
So
I want to know how many apps, stock, and icons it has. That would be interesting.
Stock icons?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 0. It's touch.
No. Out of the box, how many are there?
No, like how many apps and icons?
Oh, I got you.
You know what I
How
mean?
much crap is installed on that device when you try?
Yeah, compared to like a Nexus phone or a that'd be interesting.
So
Nexus.
you want to know how big that ROM is. So wait.
Nexus, a Note 2 ROM, stock ROM and mine's Verizon, but still, is about 950 megabytes versus a compiled AOSP ROM plus a package of Google apps being in the 300 or so range. So you're talking 3 times as much software as comes on a stock.
That's about how the Droid DNA is. It comes with 900 and some meg of awesomeness.
Oh.
All right, so Scott, what am I hearing here? Are you on the Samsung ship or the HTC ship?
Oh, I've never owned like a high quality metal device, so I don't know how those feel. But
They feel like metal.
Based off specs, I would go with the S4 and wipe it. But if we're doing just out of the box without wiping, I would go HTC.
Well, I have the Droid DNA, which I know I was talking about this earlier with Russell Hawley from Geek.com, and he kind of made fun of me when I said that I already have the HTC One. I mean, I don't. I have the Droid DNA running a Sense 5.0 ROM that comes exactly with the HTC One. So, and the screen's a little bit bigger, and there's a little bit of plastic, and it's not metal. But for all intents and purposes, to me, if you held the two devices 10 feet away, you'd be like, hey, look, there's two devices that are exactly the same. And similar hardware, internals. Cameras going to be different, obviously. There's no ultra pixels in the DNA. But I like HTC devices. It's a well-built phone. I mean, I hate this phone. I hate it, but it is a well-built phone. So my Incredible, I loved my Incredible. I would love the HTC One. I really would, but I can't run a custom UI. I'm sorry, I can't run skinned Android, custom UIs like Sense, TouchWiz. I can't do that. So I would need something that would be supported, and I think that the Galaxy S4 would have better support than the HTC One, just because HTC is hard for developers to get AOSP to work on. So I would choose the Galaxy S4 for rooting and ROMing customization capabilities. How about you, Dan? I mean, you're a kernel dev. Do you or you used to be in another life? Do you agree with that HTCs will probably be harder to get a custom ROM on?
Well, they are releasing an unlocked developer edition that's supposed to go on sale in the US at the same time as the device goes up for general availability. So that might help things. I kind of doubt it. I mean, really the issue isn't so much getting the device unlocked. It's getting past all of the ridiculous stuff that HTC changes with no reason. And I don't see that changing.
So if you're into rooting and ROMing, it's all about the S4.
Months and months and months. I don't see, I just don't see it getting the same kind of support that the Samsung will, which pains me because I think Samsung makes very crappy devices, and I think HTC makes very, very high quality devices. But it's a real pain for a developer for the custom ROMing and kernel scene to deal with HTC devices anymore. They just keep making it harder and harder.
Yeah.
Samsung does not.
So I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to say if I would get this device, or if I were to get a new device in the next 2 months or whenever it comes out, I would probably go for the S4. That's if you're into rooting and ROM, and that's just me. Now, the One looks like it's going to be a gorgeous device. It's cut from metal, it's not plastic, and I don't know. Obviously, we're going to have to wait till people get the review units. Actually, Android Authority should have a review unit coming home tonight. I believe they leave tonight with them. Either way, we're gonna have one soon, so we'll be able to get some hands-ons and full reviews here if you want to check.
And we're also doing a giveaway.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so if you haven't entered into our international giveaway, just go to androidauthority.com. It'll be the very first post at the top of the page. It's a featured post. It'll say Samsung Galaxy S4 international giveaway of awesome. Or I don't think it actually says that, but
it just says exclamation point.
It should.
Yeah, so you go there, and you don't have to like us, tweet us, circle us, hula hoop us, whatever. You don't have to do anything crazy. All you gotta do is leave a comment, enter the contest. If you want to leave a comment that says Derek Ross is awesome and Scott Anderson is not, that's cool. It doesn't
I will
matter.
downvote that comment right away.
Yeah.
But if you want to, then by all means go ahead.
You may or may not you may or may not increase your chances by downvoting every Scott Anderson post. I don't know.
I think that's true.
Actually, no, it doesn't do anything.
It actually does affect it. It weighs it.
So, anything else about the Galaxy S3? You guys that are watching live right now, you have any questions that you want us to answer? There's been a lot of comments agreeing with us and so forth, but would you like us to hone in on something that you want our opinion on here before we wrap up for the evening?
Andrew Darling wants to state that he wants us to touch on the fact that Samsung decided to keep the removable battery option, and that is awesome. I do like that. That's something that they should always...
You think that was a kind of a ha-ha towards other manufacturers, that are that are going the different route, trying to
I think they're trying to keep it, choice. And if they want to wipe all their software and run a custom ROM, then they have choice to do that.
I think Samsung's going to run into some problems with that because there's increasing regulations coming out in parts of the world that are making it less and less okay to have removable batteries in mobile devices. So they're going to have to start probably changing their strategy on that a little bit as those regulations take hold.
Now, I did see a comment and question about my cat. She is a staple for this show now. Like, honestly, if she isn't laying on this chair, she's probably dead.
Is she alive?
No. No, she always... I used to block her out. I used to not let her come down here because she'd sit here in the chair the whole time. But then I started realizing the internet loves cats. So I'm just gonna let her do this. I'm going to let her come down here every show and lay right there in that chair.
For those of you listening, there's a chair, and there's cat is always laying on it. What's your cat's name?
Her name is Sahara. Oh. And that's named after my dog, River, since they're, so we had to have, had to do that, difference.
There's rivers in the Sahara.
You had to be that guy, didn't you?
Hey, that's what I do. Downvote my comments.
All right, so anything else? Dan, did we have any awesome patent news this week, or any carrier news we're talking about? What about that T-Mobile leak we had about the trade-ins? I think that's pretty interesting. So T-Mobile has a new trade-in plan they're going to launch where if you have a device that you want to trade in, they'll actually give you a credit for. So you bring your old device into T-Mobile store, or you do a mailer, and you can get a credit. It obviously depends on the age of the device, what device it is. But if you're switching to T-Mobile, the uncarrier, they're now going to give you money for giving them your old device, which is cool. Help bring the cost down of your monthly payments for the first month or so.
Quickly, another comment from Andrew Darling. Basically, he was commenting on the 128 gigabyte size. Now, is there any limit to share NFC files size?
You're not sharing via NFC.
No. I understand that, but if you're doing it over Bluetooth or Wi-Fi Direct, is there any limit?
I don't believe so. I think you're only limited by the capacity.
So NFC or S-Beam is used as a front end to Wi-Fi Direct to create the connection, and once it's connected, it's just a direct Wi-Fi connection. You know what? I'm going to say I don't know if there's a limit. I've never heard of it. I've also never tried to send a 6 gig file. So
the only limit on it would be an artificially imposed one. There's no theoretical limit on it. Right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's just an ad hoc network that you create. Once it's created, you can do whatever you want with it. Send 1 kilobyte or send a gajillion megabytes or terabytes or petabytes if you want to.
That's actually a weekend project, Dan. So everyone's getting homework this week. If you have 2 devices, whether
Andrew,
that be...
this homework's for you.
Yeah, Andrew. So if you have 2 devices, tablet, phones, whatever, I want you to take your largest legally obtained 6 gigabyte movie and transfer
it somewhere bad.
And transfer between
where I
devices.
can legally obtain something that's in a loose file format.
I just want to see how see if it lets you do it. I've only transferred pictures. I've never transferred anything besides a couple meg movie.
It's definitely interesting to know if you can hit a wall there. So.
Yeah, but who's gonna? And the thing is, the file can't be bigger than 64 gigs because if it is, then it's gonna be on 2 partitions and.
Well, yeah, that obviously.
Yeah, the limits there are capacity based. They aren't transfer protocol based.
Yeah, it's.
All right, so Scott, want to wrap things up?
Yeah. So you guys can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Google+. We get comments during the show from Google+, Android Authority Google+ page. We read the comments from there as well as YouTube. You can find all of our posts on AndroidAuthority.com. If you scroll onto the bottom right side, there's a little section called On Air. After every show, we post kind of a little synopsis of what we talked about in the video. Also, if you don't want to watch us or don't want to spend the bandwidth in order to watch us or just want to listen to us on the go, we are on SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, iTunes. We have an RSS feed.
Which you can't view in Google Reader in a few months.
Which is going to be a sad day, but there are other things out there.
All right, guys, so find us on various corners of the interwebs. We will be there, and have a good night. Have a good weekend. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Peace.
Take it easy.